Happy Thought Leader Thursday. Today, we're going to talk about how we as teachers can re-engage in our own classrooms. You might have heard somebody say, my heart isn't in it anymore. It's mid-July as I'm releasing this episode, and some of us go back to school soon, and we may not be ready. So here's a quote from Dave Burgess in his best-selling book, Teach Like a Pirate. Some teachers look out over the 99% engaged classroom with kids on fire about learning and feel successful. Others choose to focus on the 1% and feel like failures. And then he says, make a conscious decision to focus on what empowers you. Now, I'll admit it, I tend to be a 1% focuser. I find that kid who wasn't with me and I carry him home, sometimes even through the summer. But if we're going to engage our students, we must engage ourselves first. Let's start by looking at the wins. Now, let's talk about teacher engagement.
This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
So excited today to be talking with Michelle Singh, National Board Certified Teacher, founder of the Restful Teacher, CEO of LCT-E Learning Solutions, and has over 20 years serving in the Miami-Dade County Public Schools as a teacher district leader and consultant. So Michelle, as we start the school year, we're kind of looking ahead going, okay, I really need to engage those students. What is the work you're currently doing in that area?
Actually doing my dissertation right now around the disengagement of Black students in classrooms, and particularly language arts, secondary language arts classroom. So I'm doing a lot of work around student engagement and factors leading to student disengagement, everything from issues with their home life, their community life, their behavioral, social, emotional. There are so many layers to student disengagement, and it is not because students are lazy. And it's not because students don't have discipline. Think of the iceberg. It's not all what you see at the top. There's so much more below the surface that causes the disengagement of students. But one of the things that has really stood out to me when it comes to engagement, and I have noticed in conversations with my clients as a consultant, that we are disengaged, just like our students. And in order for us to truly tap into what we need to really be there and to serve and to support our students the way that they deserve, we have to fix our own disengagement, our own disconnection. And there are a lot of things that causes us to disconnect. It could be traumas from our childhood that are not addressed, that we're not even aware of. It could be the toxic work environments that we're part of. Yeah. It could be, burnout, not prioritizing our well-being and our rest, not resting. It could be having too much happening in our families.
There's so many things besides just the exhaustion that we have to relate to educate. But that takes a lot of effort.
It does. I love that. You have to relate to educate. I just finished one of my college classes with aspiring teachers, and relationships are the most important. I heard it echoed in the room. Every experience that they've shared with a teacher who influenced them was because of trust, was because of safety, was because of relationships.
That's what you talk about with Miss Fernandez. Tell us a little bit about her.
In my TED Talk, I talk about Miss Fernandez, my Spanish teacher. One of the things that I'll always remember Miss Fernandez for is her ability to see me. To see me exactly as who I was, this little immigrant girl coming from Jamaica with the heavy accent, with the bushy hair, with the school uniform, the only kid in the class wearing a uniform, because that's what we did in Jamaica. The only kid in class who stood up to speak, because that's what we did in Jamaica. The kid that everyone laughed at where other teachers stayed silent. She was the one that made me feel seen, that told me it was okay to be me. And she was also the one that gave me incredible learning experiences that I didn't really recognize were incredible until I became a teacher myself. And I started looking back and tapping into her own strategies and implementing them in my own practice.
And we have all these kids that are hurting and that need us. the percentages that you shared in your TED Talk. So 2% of teachers in America are African-American male and 7% are African-American women. And if you're not engaged, like we need more. We don't need to lose the ones we have. What do we do, Michelle?
I can talk personally about what I've done as well as what I'm helping other women educators of color address. And it's addressing that disconnection in yourself, addressing the reason why you don't feel fulfilled. Because if you're not fulfilled, how are you going to show up and do a job that's so important? I know I have been there where I've shown up and have been on autopilot and didn't even realize I was on autopilot. And that didn't serve me, and it did not serve my students. So how do we get from that to feeling so full inside where we're able to serve from a place of fulfillment rather than a place of sacrifice?
And, some days, even if I'm totally in sync with my teaching, I don't feel it. So I show up anyway. But there is this huge systemic problem of teacher disengagement. Teachers are hurt. They're wounded. So where does a teacher start who's listening to you and they are like, Michelle, you are right?
Start with acknowledgement. Acknowledgement that you are disconnected, that you are not fulfilled, that you realize that I have been on autopilot for so long. I am burnt out. I need help. And when you start with acknowledgement, then you're starting to confront and the behaviors and the beliefs that are keeping you stuck in that lack of fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
Really think about, what does fulfillment mean to you? Like, what is it to be fulfilled? What is it to feel like your cup is full? What is it to feel like I am totally connected with my why? And I have defined success on my terms and not society standards and not someone else's standards. What does that feel like to me? What does that look like to me? I think you have to define those things for yourself, and you have to acknowledge beliefs and behaviors that are not serving you well. And I'll tell you this, it's not something you could do alone. You know how there's the A team? I have the Michelle team. That's God. That's my therapist. That's a coach, and that's a community, because you can't do this work alone. I have to have those 4 things to be able to say, okay, this is when perfectionism is coming in. This is when that limiting belief is coming in. This is when that imposter syndrome is coming in. This is when those things are coming in to keep me stuck. And here's what I can do to allow me to move forward in that.
When you have too much, it's too much. It's hard when you get there, Michelle. I mean, speaking from experience, some teachers feel like there's no option but to quit. I mean, that's just where they are.
I know. I've been there.
You have?
I have been there.
Tell me about it.
I have been there where I felt that I just didn't have another way out. My health was at risk. My mental health, my emotional health, my physical health, all of that was at risk because of the work environment that I was in. And I had gotten to the point where I just could not take it anymore. I literally broke down in tears in the office of my supervisor. She was actually the supervisor of my supervisor. She was a superintendent. And I left shortly after that. After 15 years in the public school system, I chucked up the deuces and I left. Now, I am still connected. I still do work as a consultant and I still serve. However, I do it on my own terms.
Yeah. So we acknowledge that there is a time where you have to
step away.
There is that time.
You have to, and it's not easy to step away. And I'll tell you this, 15 years in a career, and you don't know what's next. It's not easy to step away, but when your health and your family, and you are looking at all of those things, and that you might not be here in a couple of years because your health is getting so bad, and your emotional health, your physical health, and all of that, then you have to make a decision to prioritize yourself.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of us don't do. A lot of us don't prioritize. We are great at doing everything for everybody else, saying yes to everything, but we don't prioritize ourselves. And that's one of the things that I've learned to do in the past couple of years is say yes to myself. Say yes to myself and say no and set boundaries.
Boundaries is a great word because when you say yes to one thing, you're saying no to something else. So there are seasons and it's okay to transition. I'm curious though, Michelle, you're doing your paper on this right now for your dissertation. Are there initially some low-hanging fruit that you can point teachers to help them with engaging themselves?
I would say do a clarity audit. Why don't we call it that? A clarity audit where you are really going to do some self-reflection to figure out what in your life makes you float and what in your life frustrates you. And then I would even say, make a list of the things that you no longer want to tolerate. I would say the clarity audit will help you to figure out what are the things that makes you the happiest, that are completely aligned to your core values. This is your why you're here on this earth, why you're here doing the work that you're doing. But then also identify the things that you don't want to do anymore and figure out a way to not do those things anymore.
Unless it's the dishes, and most of us are stuck with those.
Cooking is the next thing.
Home comes with you, especially when you're stressed out at home,
There's a book that I read when I first started when I left teaching and I started on the entrepreneurial path, Rachel Rogers. One of the things that I learned from that book was identifying the things in your life that take up time where you could be doing something that is more valuable.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then delegating that. So for me, of course, driving, but laundry. The time that it would take me to do laundry, I could be doing something that, let's say, could make me more money or could make me more productive, write an article, do something for my students that's just more pleasing. And I then delegate the laundry to a service. The cost of that was not as great as I thought because I am getting fulfillment from that, from not doing it anymore, but doing something that I love to do and having that task that I no longer want to do being done by somebody else.
Yeah.
I was able to kind of identify those things, like I said, that I no longer wanted to tolerate and figure out a way to get those things done and focus on the things that made me float.
Could we finish with a pep talk for teachers as they head back into their classrooms or just need some encouragement? What would you say to them?
It's so important to celebrate the small wins. We don't take time to do that. The smallest things. A kid smiled at you today. A kid said, "Hey, miss, I like your shoes." The smallest wins. I would say celebrate the small wins and write them down because you're going to need to go to those to help boost you up when you're not feeling your best and when you're not feeling you're not enough, but know that you are enough.
Oh, those do help. And taking those letters they write and putting them in an attic roll drawer, opening it up and looking at it when you have the hard days because they do come.
Yes. You could connect with me at empty2empowered. So the word empty, the number 2 empowered.com. And that's how we can stay connected.
Well, thank you for coming on the show today, Michelle. Thanks for tuning in to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. Watch the video version of this podcast and catch my new radio and TV show, Cool Cat Teacher Talk, on YouTube and a radio or TV station near you. Join my Cool Cat Teacher Classroom Matters newsletter at coolcatteacher.com/newsletter. Leave a review if you found this helpful. See you later, educator.